Hey there again, Collabcast listeners. This is Captain Dave Jackson coming to you from a very cloudy Hendersonville, Tennessee. I usually say sunny, but not today. We've got clouds in the sky and it's cooling down just a bit, which is fine because we've had some heat already. So don't mind it at all, but it's a change of pace. So I'm thrilled to have with me today one of our longtime IAOA members. Just a ray of sunshine. Many of you know Tracey from the good state of Texas. And so I want to welcome to our show as a guest, Tracey Blackwell from the San Antonio area. Tracey, welcome.
Thank you, Captain Dave, for having me.
Absolutely. So we were just talking off camera a little bit ago, and I said, Tracey, when was the last time you did a podcast? And she said, I never have. And I was like, I was in shock. I'm like, you're kidding me. Oh my gosh. So this is going to be a real treat for you listeners. If you haven't heard Tracey talk about life in general, her journey, her agency, all of that, you're going to love today's episode because she is just, like I said, a ray of sunshine. I liken you as Miss Positive. You know, you've always got a smile. You're always positive. You got a general great disposition. I think that's why people are drawn to you because you just take life as it comes and you deal with it and you deal with it in such a great way. We appreciate you. Awesome. So my first question is let's get our listeners to learn a little bit about you. Grew up in Texas. Are you from the good state of Texas originally?
I'll say that. My dad was military, so we traveled a lot.
Yep.
I was actually born in Turkey, which most people wouldn't even know that, but that's where my father was serving. But we traveled the world, but he claimed home in San Antonio probably in 1974. And so we've been here ever since. So my father retired in this area, and I just kind of stayed put. Did a little bit of moving with another company I was with, but otherwise I just called Texas home.
Okay, very cool. Born in the country of Turkey.
Yeah.
So, but your dad was a military, so obviously he was American born. But how long was he stationed over there in the military?
You know, it's crazy. My father loved the Turkish people. They were always so kind, and he volunteered 3 times. He did 3 tours, one before I was born, when I was born, and then we went back in the early 70s. And just loved the culture, loved the people. They were so welcoming. And so he just kept volunteering to go back to Turkey. We did get stationed to Montana, but it was so cold for us Texans that he volunteered to go back to Turkey to get out of the cold weather. Because we're used to, give us 100-degree weather, we're good with it because we can jump in the pool and have a cold beer in our hand and we're good. Right. So we like the heat.
Very cool. So have you been back to Turkey?
You know,
as a kid?
I went with State Auto just recently. I did a trip over there, and we went to Greece and Turkey and that whole area. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, just recently, it was in this last summer, I was back over there.
Oh, very cool. I've only been to the country of Turkey one time, and it was a 1-day stop on a cruise.
Yep.
And so, of course, we signed up and went and saw Ephesus with biblical ruins and all that. And that was interesting. I hadn't seen something like that before. So that was pretty cool. But that's Amazing. It. And that was about 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
But
awesome.
Part of a Greece tour, Athens. So we saw a little bit of history for sure. It's cool. Awesome. So, but you consider yourself obviously basically American and a Texan. And I don't hear your drawl though. Do you do that? Do you do that? All the Texan lingo?
Oh yeah, I mean we're fixing to go to the grocery store. We're gonna get you a Coke, not a pop, and you know, we don't say park a car. I mean we just park the car. You know,
right? You're not like Bostonians. No. So okay, so we may catch a hint of that a little bit. So you went to high school. Was it in San Antonio area?
Yep.
Is that why you're there? Because I know like USAA is stationed there and they have bases there. So that's where your dad ended up at some point. That's how you landed there, right?
Yeah. San Antonio is called Military City, USA. I mean, they have 5, at the time, I think 4 or 5 military bases, and you get a lot of retired military vets that hang out here because they like it. They like the weather, and they have all the things to service the military community. So played basketball here locally at a local school. and then went on from there to Seguin, Texas, which is a little bitty school. And I played basketball out in Seguin at Texas Lutheran University way back, way before the gray hair and a little bit probably thinner.
So basketball players, so you got to be a Spurs fan, right?
I am. They've had their ups and downs, but I'll tell you that the days of Tim Duncan's, Manu, Parker, those were the heydays. So we're in a rebuilding, time frame, but we'll come back.
Tony Parker at point guard. Yeah, I remember those days. They had a heck of a team.
We did.
Yeah.
We did.
You won how many championships? Was it just the one?
No, several.
More than one?
Yeah, there were several that we won under, we had David Robinson, who's like a legend, and such a great man. And he still lives here, and a lot to learn from what they call the Admiral. They call him the Admiral, but it's a lot about servant leadership and investing in your community. He's a great asset for, San Antonio, Texas, for sure. Right.
Very cool. So let me ask you this. Before insurance, did you have a life before insurance?
I did.
What industry was that in?
I was with a large grocery retailer called HEB Grocery Company.
Oh, yeah. Anybody in Texas knows them.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. I've been gone. This was my 19th year in the business, but started out as a bagger because I needed beer money while I was in college. And so that's where I worked to make some extra money while I played basketball. I worked 1 or 2 days a week. And then after graduation, I ended up going through their store management training program and ran stores. And after that, I used to oversee the 56 stores in San Antonio as director of customer service. So all the checkers, baggers, bookkeeping, probably about, 20,000 employees in that area of that group. And then I rolled out technology projects, which is so hilarious. I was a director with Change the Business. I'm not a techie. If the computer doesn't work, I hit the button to make it restart. And I kept saying, why do you want me to be your gal to run technology? But really my role was to facilitate the change. And when you get that, and people don't like change, and when you understand, what's in it for them and how do you get them on board quickly to the change in the process, and you have established process and rules, that makes the transition so much easier. So rolled out a payroll management system to replace an old dying one to web-enabled. So literally, when I left HEB, I thought if I can figure out something that I'm not good at, like technology, I can certainly try to figure out something else. So I've been doing this, like I said, 19 years.
So what led you to leave HEB at the time?
So that's a great question. It came down to time and choices. My spouse works for HEB still today. And we had little guys. We had a four-year-old and like an infant. And at some point, we just decided that one of us should probably raise the kids, right? And I wanted to be the Boy Scout mom. I wanted to be coaching them. I wanted to be able to do stuff. And I needed to find a job that allowed me to do both. But I'll tell you that I worked harder in the first 2 years of business than I ever did at HEB. And at HEB, it was very common to be working 60 to 80 hours, right? Because that's just, you work when nobody else is working, right? You work all the holidays, you work all of that. But at the end of the day, there was so much fun and excitement that it was something that I was building. And honestly, if you have a little fire in your belly and you're scared to death, you got both of those working, and you want to succeed. And so that's literally what I did. I left a 6-figure job. And I started out, my first paycheck's hanging on the wall out in my office in the lobby. It's $1,129.62. And that was for 3 months worth of work because I had no earthly idea what I was doing. But you know what? I was having fun. I had a spouse that supported me, and we'd saved up for a rainy day that we were going to be okay. I mean, we made some life choices, right? We sold a Mercedes. The beans and rice and beans. We did that.
You are all in.
You know what? I always ask people, are you all in? Are you ready to drive from a Mercedes to a 99 Ford Ranger? That's a big, I don't know if I can do that.
Right.
Cut cable, when you start looking at all the stuff that you just waste money on, it's kind of, it adds up, all the dollars and pennies. And so did cash flow the business forever. And still to this day, my first loan I took out was when I built this building, which was 3 years ago, and actually ran into a little issue because I didn't have a credit score in the business. So that was kind
Right,
of
because
for
you're
me
a
to
cash
play
payer. I know.
all this cash.
I
And
know.
so I actually had to take out a credit card, and it's all good. I mean, but I'll say that, it's probably a good thing I didn't know how hard it was going to be, because I was pretty ignorant, right? That everybody
Hmm.
wants to get into the get rich quick scheme. And I'm like, there's no get rich quick. This is a crock pot, not a microwave. And
Right.
it really is surrounding yourself with the right people and keep investing in your people to make it happen.
Cool. So I'm extremely interested in how you got into the industry. Was it for as your agency today, as we know it today, or did you have
No,
a step into the industry before that?
I was lucky enough that I stepped in with somebody that was actually my insurance agent. All I knew is I had insurance. That was it. But it was a very unique situation. I paid for all my expenses, 100% of everything, including when I started hiring people. And I did that from 2005 to 2012. And in 2012, I rolled off my clients, and I rolled off my employees, and I'd already bought everything else because I was paying for it. I just really wasn't taking the full benefit of everything.
Oh, okay. So you work for another agency
I did,
prior to going out on your own. Okay.
yes.
And do you feel like you're an entrepreneur at heart?
Yeah.
Do you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I love the thrill of the hunt. I love building. I love the excitement. I don't care for the day to day of the business. I can do the day to day, but what really makes this girl happy is to go out there, have fun, serving the community, pumping up my employees. I mean, that just gets me going. The grind is what I don't like, and we're working on putting more people in place to help me with the grind, because when you stay in your swim lanes, you can excel. And right now we're redefining swim lanes because we've gotten so big that I really need to bring in some help to allow me to do what I love to do.
Okay. Very cool. So let's jump back to the agency you started with. Well, do you remember your first day in the insurance industry?
I do.
What were you doing? I mean, where did you work? What were your duties? That kind of thing.
I showed up and they said, okay, congratulations. I paid to go get my own license, my own everything. And they said, here, sit with this person and learn. And literally, it's a little bit more challenging what we do, Dave, because you're having to learn so many different websites. I was really good
Hmm.
at suspending passwords, right? Because you have so many people are all mad at me, but you got to also
Password
remember,
reset.
you got to remember that I come from a world where I had everybody do that for me, right? So now all of a sudden I'm trying to figure out how to even get on the computer and do stuff when that really wasn't what I was normally used to doing. And so yeah, I was really good at suspending passwords. So really, I just remember just talking to people. And here's an interesting conversation. I didn't even know really what to do or how to do it because I really didn't have a whole lot of guidance. I didn't have a coaching program, which I highly recommend now. I wish I would have done retrospect, but I didn't know. Is just to, I remember somebody called me and said, Tracey, can you help me with my resume? And I'm like, yeah, sure, I can help you. And I came home that night and I said, hey, and was asked, what did you do? And I said, oh, I helped so-and-so with their resume. And they looked at me real quick. They said, well, that's not selling. And I go, I don't, well, they needed help. So that's what I did, right? And then fast forward, the conversation like 10 years later was, your gift, Tracey, is you love to help. And even back then when you were trying to help somebody with your resume, you weren't going in with expecting anything.
Right.
You were just going in to help with the resume. And then I ended up getting all of their business, their life insurance, all that good stuff, right? But if you always go in with a servant heart, which is what I always lead with, because that's what makes my heart happy. I'm at an age in my life, if it doesn't make me happy, I don't do it. I mean, that's the
Right.
reality.
Right. Good for
So
you.
just stay in your swim lane, do what makes you happy, and do what you're good at. I mean, at the end of the day.
Right. So would you say you stumbled into the insurance agency like so many of us?
Absolutely, 150%. So here's a true story: is that I kept getting recruited by insurance companies, but I just figured they wanted my 401k, right? All the big financial 401k companies, like, Tracey, you'd be great at this. Tracey, you'd be great at this. And I didn't I didn't trust anybody, if I have to be honest. So I just figured that's what they wanted. But I did some assessments for myself where you can put in like, what are your skill sets? And once I did all of my skill sets, insurance popped up. And I thought, they don't even know how much money I have in the bank. They don't know anything about me. It's just how I answered these questions. And it said insurance would be a good gig for me. So that's when I really started seriously taking it seriously, because dear God, insurance seems like boring, right?
Right.
I mean, that's just like you probably know this, the younger generation won't remember this, but the Mr. Whipple don't squeeze the Charmin, commercial, right? It's the same philosophy that I had about, insurance. Is like, oh, no way. So literally, and fast forward to today, anybody I hire, they have to go pay on their own the $25 to do a career assessment. They send it to me. And I always tell them, invest in yourself, find a job that makes you happy. And I do career counseling. Everybody knows that they block and tackle my calls. But if somebody calls and says, I want career counseling, they block 30 minutes for me. And they know to tell them, hey, send you your results. So like right when I came back from vacation on Monday, there was somebody on my calendar. Didn't know who it was, but it was a real estate agent whose daughter needed help. And I spent 30 minutes with her after she sent me her career assessment first. Because I'm also looking for either I know them or I insure them or I can help them. Because I promised God a long time ago, if you get me into something that I absolutely love and the job, I promise I've been in their shoes when you're not sure what you're going to do, and I'll help them get to the right spot. And so that's, I'm always doing career counseling because, some people are down and out and they're maybe they got let go of the job and they don't realize that God just has a different plan and they got to let go and let God. And that's a hard thing to do sometimes when you're at the end of your rope.
So thank the good Lord that you did that career assessment and insurance popped up.
Yeah.
Because what a great match, right?
Right. For sure.
That's very cool. But again, many of us have similar stories. I just stumbled into the business. I didn't go to high school or college or post-education with the idea that I was going to enter this industry and do whatever job, you end up doing, especially agency owners. They have all kinds of paths. I talk to them, and they have all kinds of paths into where they are today. And none of them look the same. Absolutely none of them. Everybody's got their own trek, which is cool. Very cool. Right. So I want to ask you about your agency. So you talked about you build a building. So that's cool. Everybody, I think a lot of people, not everybody, a lot of people like to be a commercial landlord. Yeah, right. Occupy some of the space and maybe lease out some of the rest. So tell us about that. 3 years ago, what made you decide this is what I want to do building wise? Mm-hmm.
Well, one is I kept growing and I kept getting either booted out of a lease or having to go find a new lease. And I got tired of the moving back and forth. And so, saved up some money again because you got to put, a chunk down to buy the land and then a chunk to build it. Mm-hmm. And this was always the dream. Is I want to own something that I'm putting in myself. And, it's also kind of a crazy time, right? So I'm building right in the middle of a pandemic, right? And I had a choice. I had a choice to go time out. I'm going to go back to my comfort zone, or I'm going to rip the Band-Aid off and go. And I've always figured I always land on my feet somehow. Again, because if I'm nervous or if I got fire in the belly or I'm scared to death, I come out a swinging, right? I have to go out and do more. So it's actually helps me grow by making me uncomfortable. So we built just under a 10,000 square foot building. I occupy 5,600 square feet. And then I still have 3,500, 3,600 on the other side. That's just a shell. And you're going to say, Tracey, why haven't you rented out? Because I haven't decided what I'm going to do when I'm going to grow up, right? Do I want to expand?
Save it for a rainy day.
Do I want to, rent it out? How much space? And, I know when I start tapping out, which I'm getting pretty close to tapping out of space for employees here, well, then I'll do it, But, the other good news is during the pandemic is interest rates dropped. Right? Because they couldn't give money away. And so literally we were able to do a 15-year note on a 3.85 interest rate, which is unheard of right now. So
not in commercial for sure.
No, yeah. So I've got 12 more years and this will be owned outright. And so again,
Wow.
at that point, it's just going to cash flow even more for my family.
Right. Did you run into the whole supply and labor issues during COVID during your building phase?
No, because I started kind of like right in the beginning. Like I'd already bought the land. In fact, right when we were getting ready to sign the contract, I looked at my builder and I'm like, dude, what happens if you get whatever this thing's called happens to you?
Right.
What am I going to do? And he goes, I'll have my brother. And I said, what happens if both of you guys kick the bucket? Then what? He goes, Tracey, that's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. We'll be okay. And he said, even if it did, he has many contacts you have. I know you'll figure it out and you'll finish it. And again, betting on myself, and again, knowing that I can figure things out, I'll just do it. So literally that's what, and at that time also, my spouse got relocated to take over an executive position in a different region. And so now lives in Austin, who was supposed to be helping me do this. So all of a sudden I'm having to do all the details. And if you know me, Captain Dave, details, when God was passing out the gifts, of patience and kindness and everything else, I didn't get the details one. It just went out my brain. And that, so it was just really having to buckle down and do stuff on my own through this whole process.
So at 5,600 square feet, you got this other 3,500 or so space. So sounds like that's room for further expansion, no?
Oh, for sure. For sure.
Okay.
I mean, here's the reality is I could have rented that out and had it built out 10 times already.
Right.
But, and everybody that wants to be in here is mortgage.
Okay.
And once you let one mortgage person in, everybody else doesn't refer to you because they think that all you do is business with that person.
Yeah,
So
you're in bed. Yep.
yeah, it's exactly it. And so I told the real estate agent, hey, no mortgage. I really want, if I could have found a health insurance person, because I don't do health insurance, I mean, they could make a killing,
Right.
or a financial planner, because I'm very specific on who I want in there. And more importantly, who has the same servant heart, right? If they don't,
Right.
they don't really give a crap about their community, I don't want them in there because this is, I live in this community. So my reputation is everything. At the end of the day, all I have is my reputation.
Right, right. So tell us a little bit about your agency. We're getting a little bit of a view because of the amount of space your staff occupies. So premium dollars, revenue dollars, number of employees, mix of business, all of that. What's your agency look like?
So we have probably about 18 people on the team. I have a business development rep that all they do is go out and get business and go to events, put on events. And I think if I had a word of advice, I wish I would have done that sooner, right? Because at the end of the day, I can only go to so many events.
Right.
I don't say only, our book of business is 98% personal. I don't like commercial insurance. I don't sleep at night when I do commercial. I really don't have a service team to do commercial. And I'm like, just, if we can't write it with Liberty Mutual or now Farmers, MetLife, MGA, whatever, we just don't write it, right? Because it just, yes, I could make a whole lot more money, but you know what? I make a good living. I make enough. I don't need to make more. And I think when you find your niche and you stay in it, you excel at it. So I have one producer, myself, and then everybody else is in-house. I mean, I've got two that take care of all of my leads that come in. I've got, people, 5 people on service that takes the calls in. We've got people on the retention team. I've got one person that handles all the banking and commissions. I've got somebody that does my social media for me on the T-Big side. What else? So that's, really just personal line is our gig, is what we really focus on.
And I'm going to take a wild guess or stab that your retention is pretty high, correct?
Yes. And are you talking about staff retention?
No, your policies in force. Where does that land? I know you know your numbers.
Here's what I'll say. We could do better. How's that? Right? Because especially right now in this crazy world, actually after this call, I've got a call with another agency owner who's talking about their numbers. And I'm like, man, I need to learn from you because I feel like all we're doing is just burn and churn like a hamster on a wheel. And I need to get off the wheel and figure out plan B. And so, overall, I'd say we should be a whole lot more than what we're at today, Captain Dave, and it's really my lack of leadership in that area. I'm the only one that can hold myself accountable and not giving the right direction. So it's really talking to people and say, okay, how are you doing it? Because why do I need to reinvent the wheel if other people are already doing it? So we don't have any VAs. I'm exploring that right now because I think that we just can't keep up right now. It's just a matter of, it's a beast that's kind of both on new business because everybody's shopping, and retention, everybody's shopping. And so I'll say that our folks are a little stressed right now, and it's really how do we make sure they're okay through this whole process?
Right. So that leads me to two questions. Number one, is this as pivotal a time as ever to treat your employees well?
Oh my God, yeah. Yeah, a little
what do you do? What do you do to ensure that?
A little fireball goes a long way, but here's the thing: is that I let them be them, right? I mean, if you came in and saw some of my employees, I've got one guy that comes in, he has cut off sweats. It looks like he took a pair of scissors to, right? But I really don't care what they look like, as long as how do they sound on the phone and how do clients like them. And this is a young man with a bright future. I've got more gray hair on my head right now because I've been investing in youth, which takes a little bit more time, but they're so forever grateful that, I've got people knocking on my doors. Like I've never ran a ad for employment. It's all by either people they know. It's all, or people call me and go, hey, this person would be really good in your agency. And then I even have people I had one gal show up at my door and she said, I know this is kind of weird, but God said I should be working here. And I said, well, sister, if you're listening to God, I better listen to God. Come on in, right? And she's a retired school teacher, and she works here part-time. She just wants to have purpose. Same thing, I'm hiring another person, and they said, Tracey, I want to be a part of something on a team where I feel like I have purpose and we're serving. And, if you know anything about our agency, servant leadership is our biggest component, is how do we serve each other and serve the community.
Yeah, I was looking off camera at my books on my bookshelf. I moved it. I had a book. I think a good friend of mine who's also an agency owner in Arizona, Grant Botma.
Yeah.
And Grant talks all the time about servant leadership.
Yep.
And he authored a book, and the name of the book is The Problem Isn't Their Paycheck.
Right.
So it sounds like that tracks with your philosophy in terms of culture, agency culture, because I don't know, I hear too many people saying, I don't prospect for employees. I don't place ads. They end up coming to us. Right. And what that tells me, and unless I'm wrong, everybody wants to work in your culture. The folks that apply there are looking for your culture. I want to be able to know that every day I accomplish something. I want to be heard. I want to be seen. And the paycheck isn't the number one thing. People argue that all day long, but it's really not, especially with your younger generation. So do you buy into that same sort of philosophy?
180%. And the other thing is, you know what? I also take really good care of them as far as, they need to go take their kids to, I don't want them to miss their kids' 5th grade graduation. I don't want them because, my kids are now 26 and 22, right? And I never missed any of that. And I don't want them to miss any of that. And even if they're an hourly employee, I'm like, just go. I don't want you to miss on those opportunities. Right. But the other thing is that, we have a safe harbor 401k plan where I can match up to 4%. So at the end of the day, yes, I could take more money home. But when you keep investing in your people, they know that, they see that. I mean, I've got a very generous time off. I don't have the unlimited like some people I know have, but I do say that, and maybe one day I'll get there. I haven't got there on that. But it's a very generous time off. It's a 401k, and I think they also get 10 paid holidays, and every year we're adding, okay, we're going to close for President's Day now, and because a lot of them have younger kids, and I want them to enjoy their kids while they're young. And so that's how you attract the youth is, and, I always see it sometimes as, I can't close because I need the phone calls. Well, you don't know what you're going to get by closing. You're going to get more because your people will appreciate that time off and that flexibility to be with their kids.
Right. Great points. So you talked a little bit already, and I didn't even have to ask you about your community activities. You're active in your community. So you have a business development person, or I'm sorry, a community type person.
Yeah, it's business.
Yeah. So that person and you, and whoever else decide, here's where we're going to go. How do you decide where you're going to go?
Well, I'll say we have some of them. If you go back to our mission and our vision within the company, it's basically serving our communities to make it better. So whatever we do, we got to make sure we're serving local and things that I'm passionate about. And so which our pillars are, we do a Alzheimer's, is near and dear because our family has that in genes. So when you have it genetically stacked against you, you got to make your mess, right? You got to figure out how to do something. So we do a big Oktoberfest because this is a big German community and they like to drink beer. Then we also do, we just got done doing Cinco de Mayo, where that's also big here in Texas. We did a big fundraiser for a local food pantry. We do Bras for Cause for breast cancer, Pink Warrior Advocates, RACAP. My father, who's 83 and is my inspiration, he started his own nonprofit called John's Kids. We help out John's Kids with school supplies, peanut butter and jelly. So, we're having a 9-pin bowling. If you haven't done 9-pin bowling, by the way, it's kind of a hoot. You have to pay for the pin setters, to put the pins up. But we charge $500, a lane, and they can come in, and all that money is going towards my father's nonprofit. Because again, people like to have fun, and people like to give. They just don't know where to give. And sometimes I think you just have to be that shepherd into helping them understand where to give and how to give. And it's not, some people I think I don't have $1,000 to give. They can go pick up a notebook and a pen and paper and give it for school supplies, right? So everybody feels like they can participate and come by and get 2 free beers from me.
That could participate at least on some level.
Right. Like,
I don't care
if
it's $1,000 cash.
That's right. And that's what I always tell them. I'm not looking for every big generous donation. I'll take those, right? But I'm really looking for everybody to get involved somehow. Because if everybody gave a little bit, my God, we could give so much more, and you just got to continue to bless other people.
That's very cool to hear. So you talked a little bit about you're looking at potential of bringing on virtual assistants, VAs. So I'm taking it you don't have anyone working remotely now?
No, I did that for except who does my social media, right? Okay. But otherwise, everybody's in the office. I did that literally for 2 weeks, 3 days, 4 hours, and 8 seconds. I did that. And part of it is I really didn't have the technology at the time to do it. I didn't have voice over IP phones, but we had instant message. And I remember sitting there watching the messages go across. And I had to text one of my first employee who tells me everything. I said, hey, what does BRB mean? She goes, be right back. I'm like, well, crap, they just freaking punched in. How can they be right back? And literally it just...
oh, that's funny.
It drove me nuts, and I would say I'm driven. I like a little bit of control. However, I let them do what they want. But what you miss out, and this is just my opinion, and everybody makes it work, right? But what you hear them in there talking about who takes Dobermans, who takes homes with no central AC, who takes and they're all in there jamming. And I mean, today in our staff, somebody's mom is not doing well and she started crying and everybody's hugging for her. So what you miss out on is people come here because they'll tell you that they're part of a family. They call themselves a fam bam, and you get on these group texts, they're taking pictures of their husband and wife of their anniversary, their kids going after church. I mean, it's really a family unit at the office. And so I think I couldn't do it personally, but it works for others, but it didn't work for us.
And that's why folks are seeking out your culture. Because if you had even a hybrid where half of them are remote, half are in office, you wouldn't have the same culture.
Yeah.
So I, own it. That's what I would say is just own it. Don't apologize. A lot of the world's obviously COVID caused a lot of it are going remote and, or hybrid of some sort. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Right.
That's why they call us independents. That's what I always say.
Right.
Independent agents. We get to do what we want to do. And so that's one of the beauties of having freedom, of having an independent agency. So you get to create and build the way you want to see it done. So that's cool. I applaud you for that.
Yep.
So I love the community approach. That's probably another reason why employees are seeking you out, because you do so much good for the local community, and that comes back in, spades, just tenfold or 1,000-fold when you're looking for folks who are coming on board or want to come on board. That's so cool. So I want you to repeat one more time, because I don't think people are going to believe you the first time around. You haven't ran an ad for employment. You haven't hired anybody like an employment agency or anything like that. Almost 100% have been referrals from customers or existing employees or all your internal family members. And for 19 years, you built your agency like that. So I hope people are listening to you, because there are really good ways to get it done.
And, it's pretty interesting in that they refer somebody into the agency and they stay with us for at least 6 months, then I'll give them a $500 bonus, and it's all through payroll. But I'll call my CPA, say, hey, Emma just referred Dawson. It's been 6 months. I need to give her money, but I want to give her 5 $100 bills. And can you take out the taxes and whatever on her payroll? Mm-hmm. And so when you're standing there around staff meeting and you whip out 5 $100 bills, it creates a lot of conversation that all of a sudden other people want to have their friend come work here. And what you get is birds of a feather flock together, right? And right. I'm always also looking for diversity and inclusion, because if you look at my group, we've got the gamut, right? And I intentionally do that because not everybody's going to relate to me, right? Mm-hmm. But like Tyler's my cowboy, right? And I send Tyler out to go work on farm and ranch, and he's real involved in stock show and rodeo. I'm not that gal, but I know he is, and I'm missing. Right. You're missing out. If everybody looks like you, you're missing. You're only getting this part of the pie. I need right. people to look totally different from me to be able to go out and get the business.
That's cool. Very cool. So I took a sneak peek before we got on air today at your LinkedIn profile, and I didn't count how many, but hugs, HUGS, hugs ends up after like every third sentence. So what's up with the hugs? Obviously you're a big hugger, but so tell us about that. What's your philosophy behind hugs?
There's a lot of endorphins that are released when you hug people, right? And even if somebody's having a bad day or a good day, when you hug somebody, there's a connection. And so it's just something that's in me. And I know there's some non-huggers out there. In fact, my non-hugger friend during COVID saying, thank God we're in COVID. I don't have to hug you, Blackwell. And I said, well, your ass better be ready, because when I come out, you're getting a big one. Oh, boy. Right?
Wait till COVID's over.
Yeah. And so I think it's just, it kind of started out, somebody said, I said, hey, people, if I was to say 3 things, what is Tracey Blackwell known for? And people started saying hugs. I thought, well, I need to put that on everything. So it became part of a branding, hugs. People will tell you I'm known for Fireball. And so we started giving out little Fireball, and we're get fired up for your referrals. So I showed up at an event in Ohio for State Auto, and I was at the airport getting on a van with some other people, and somebody goes, are you the Fireball lady? I'm like, hey, that's me, right? So just that whole branding and recognition of hugs, fireballs, servant leadership, and investing in my community, and also investing in my future leaders, right? So like our local baseball team was going to state. Well, we went and bought a bunch of snacks for them to put on the bus, but I talked to them about servant leadership, that when they're in a spot, they need to take and run the city, and they need to invest and help others. So it's all about the branding and teaching, because I don't think it doesn't come natural to everybody. So sometimes you have to coach people on it.
Yeah, for sure. That's cool. I love it. Hugs. So think about that. The endorphins are what you're looking for. And then it's just a natural reaction. And so, yeah, that's very cool. So you've been a member of IAOA, which those that don't know is social media based, Facebook group based a group of independent insurance agency owners. I'm the original founder. I created it 9.5 years ago. When I transitioned from being a State Farm captive agent to going independent, within a month, I created this group. And I had no agenda whatsoever when I created this group. I really did it selfishly to be able to get my own questions answered from some of my peers.
Right.
And that was my fourth agency at the time. So I've run agencies, but not my first independent. I spent those other years on the captive side of the business. But so this group grew slowly at first, eventually started, gain some momentum. And do you remember how or when you were introduced to IAOA?
I don't know how I found out or remember how I found out, but I know the first one I went to, I believe, was Phoenix, maybe?
Okay, Tracy's talking about our annual conference.
Oh, yes.
We started our annual conference. The first year was just called a business summit meeting on a Saturday, one day, kind of a workshop. Next year was a true conference. San Antonio was our first year,
I wish I
which
would
we
have
missed
known
out at the historic Menger Hotel, which some people still think today is haunted.
Oh,
But yeah, that was fun. Those are our roots, so we love that. Then we jumped over to Orlando in 17, and then 18 we were in Phoenix. So we went from Orlando with a $99 room rate per night, kind of on the, even though it was at a Hilton, still on the economical side. And then we started to look at upscale properties like a JW Marriott, which we did in Phoenix. And we went from $99 to $279, and we were all scared. Are people going to come? It's just almost triple the rate on their room, and oh my gosh, they came in droves. And you were one of them in Phoenix. So how many conferences for IAOA have you attended?
I think 4, if I'm not mistaken.
So Phoenix.
Say it again.
Phoenix was first. You think?
Where else did I go? I've gone to Nashville,
Vegas.
So this will be my 4th one coming up.
Okay, San Diego. No,
I didn't.
That was just 2 months prior to COVID. We got it in, no problems, and then 2 months later, COVID hits. Right. So the next one was Tampa, and Tampa kind of got booted by COVID, but we still had a pretty good turnout. So then last year in October was Nashville. So we have asked Tracey to be a presenter at our Chicago conference this coming October, which is in Chicago at the Marriott Marquis. So give us, this is your first time speaking on the IAOA stage, correct?
Yes, it is.
So give us a sneak peek. What do we expect to hear from you on stage?
It's really kind of the story and the branding and how do you invest in others without expecting anything in return? It's almost like a BNI, if you're involved with BNI, giver's gain type philosophy, is that's how we roll. I mean, if you look at what we give away, it probably makes some people uncomfortable, right? But at the end of the day, if you keep blessing others, you get blessed. So it's all about, we're going to have some pictures to show you some actual events that we do and also talk about why we do it. And those events, and when we capture them on social media, not only attract new clients, but the people that show up at my door that want to work here, it says, I followed you on Facebook and I want to be a part of something like that. So it's really about investing in your communities through servant leadership and how there's so many trickle down effects of doing that. When you have the giver's gain mentality, it's life changing. If you don't worry about your checkbook, right? That's the hard part is when you don't worry about your checkbook and I'm not saying you just go, free willy. That's not what I'm saying.
Sure.
But to have confidence that with every event you do it out of the goodness of your heart, and you're just amazed at how many people want to stand up beside you and support you in your causes, and then they become your clients and your friends, and that's what I would say.
Cool. We're looking forward to that because I think people have a lot to learn, especially the newer generation. There's so much, this is my opinion, there's so much talk about, technology and let's force our clients into self-service and remote workers and, AI is coming now, artificial intelligence. And it makes me wonder, are we losing the human touch?
Right.
And here you are in San Antonio, Texas, saying, we are humans, we're proud of it, and we intend to serve our community as humans. And that's just terrific to hear and listen to. That's awesome.
We're not going to send you to a 1-800 number.
No.
You're going to answer. And actually, that's a big difference. And those clients that have been with me forever, they have my cell phone, and they'll text me.
Still
and I say,
today?
There's some from on,
Wow.
but I tell them just to do this. So don't call me about a bill because I probably don't even know how to sign in the carrier.
Right.
But if you type the word accident, I'll call you back, right? Because that's when they need us the most, is when they're in crisis time, right? Like, I just got into an accident. What do I do now? I'm like, yeah, if you text the word accident, I'll call you right back. But if not, I'm not calling you.
And they don't really need your skills. They just want to hear your voice and listen to you and know Tracey called me. Yeah. What a cool agency. Yeah. So that's cool.
Reassured that they're okay. I mean, I still personally call on claims today. I mean, because that's what they buy insurance for, is because they have to, because of the loan or the law, but they buy it in case they have an accident, and they're scared because they haven't had one in 20 years, and you got to give them a voice of reassurance that they're going to be okay. Yeah.
Yep. So it's a good thing that they don't know what to do when they do have an accident, because if they did, they'd be a problem client. Right. But so you can't expect them to be like, I have no idea what to do. So, look at your ID card, call the number on it, and, everything will be fine. So take it from just take the first step and we'll get you there. So very cool. I have two follow-up questions, and I think we'll wrap up. So you talked a little bit about social media. You have a part-timer, I think you said, who works remotely. That's the only person you have, and that's your social media person. Mm-hmm. So talk to us a little bit about your social media philosophy for the agency. What is it you're trying to accomplish with social media?
So the individual that does my social media remotely is actually my son. He's actually a zookeeper full time. But he needed some extra money, and I needed somebody to do social media. So he's actually helping me and pushing me to do more videos and do more. They want to see and hear me, or see and hear the team. Mm-hmm. So it's really about education, right? Because I think at the end of the day, people just don't know. And it's more about education. So my personal, because if you look at my personal, I'm all over social media. And actually, you'll know who's doing the social media. If it's all spelled correctly and it's nice and there's no mistakes, my son did it. If there's full of mistakes or something, Wendy just texts me. She'll text me and circle something going, Blackwell, you misspelled such and such. I'm like, all right, let me go back and correct it. And I said, you should just go get my password. You can fix it there. But on my personal, I really, I'm just very open. And I would say it's more inspirational, because I think people need to hear good stuff right now, because there's so much negativity. But the reality is that's how my brain works. And that's what makes me happy. And again, I said it earlier, but I'm at a stage in my life, I only do what makes me happy. And I don't worry about what other people think. And I'm going to share the good stuff, because we need to do that in this world right now. And how do we bring people together versus how do we have this division that's out there? And so I will still utilize the gifts that God gave me to help others understand that we all want to be accepted, and we all want to, help each other out.
Yeah. I'm going to take a little phrase that you just said out of what you just said, and that is, you don't care what other people think. And oh my gosh, I thank you for spreading that word, because there are so many people out there that don't think that way. They're looking to please everyone because they care about what others think. Here's my philosophy, and I know you'll agree. Listen, other people are going to think. They're going to form their thoughts about you or opinions. And guess what? They're entitled to, just like I am, and you and everyone else. They're entitled to. And no opinion is wrong. It never has been and never will be. Opinions are what you're entitled. It's your thoughts that you're entitled to have. So why would you care about what other people are thinking and have about their thoughts? You're going to do the same thing. So it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. Right. So let them have their thoughts. If they disagree, not everybody's meant to be in your world. Right. So, and same vice versa. So just let what happens, and be your authentic, genuine self, And those that are meant to be in your world will gravitate towards you, and it just happens organically and naturally, and you'll be happier for it. That's my philosophy.
I agree. I think, here's what you'll find is I'm 100% authentically me.
Good
and I'm
for
always
you.
going to show up as me. And I might be in a baseball cap and flip-flops. It's just me. I don't care what people think, because if they really get to know me, then that's a whole nother ball of wax, right? Because they need to understand my heart, and I have good intentions. And if we have differences, let's sit down, let's have a beer, let's talk, and maybe you can understand and appreciate the differences instead of just attack. I will say that. I think there's so many times that people attack, and I'm not looking for attack. I'm just saying, hey, let's throw back a beer and talk.
Cool. So I need to let you know that your son's correct. You being on video is a very good thing. You need to know that. For having you on your first podcast ever, it's just a natural conversation. That's all podcasts are. It's just being on video, being authentic, just like you love to be, being yourself, and sharing your ideas and philosophies with others. And if they are willing to come along or buy into some of the ideas and things you talk to us about, so be it. And if they don't, that's okay too. Like you said, we're not going to be everything to everyone every day. So good for you. I appreciate it. So we're going to let our listeners listen to what you had to say for the last 52 minutes. And they're going to find that Tracey Blackwell is a genuine human being. And we appreciate you coming on with us today. I know our listeners are going to enjoy it. So thank you, Tracey.
Thank you, Captain Dave. I really appreciate the opportunity. I look forward to seeing you in October to give you a big old hug, and I'll be ready to go.
There you go. I'll be there hugging right along with you, because I'm a big time hugger. So
Awesome.
Chicago in October. We'll see you there. And thanks again. Take care.
All right.
Captain Dave signing out, everybody. Thanks to all you Collabcast listeners. And we'll see you on our next episode coming up very soon. Take care.
Thank you for listening to Collabcast with IAOA with Captain Dave Jackson. Production and distribution by Podsquad.fm, Riverside.fm, and Spotify for podcasters. Special thanks to Little Dog Social Media, Terry Champion, and all our guests and listeners. If you're an independent insurance agency owner, please subscribe to our podcast weekly. You can also request to join our agency owner exclusive Facebook group, IAOA, or Insurance Agency Owners Alliance at IAOA.com. Captain Dave Jackson signs out from sunny Hendersonville, Tennessee.